No other language learning app has the same overwhelmingly large body of positive testimonials behind it as Dreaming Spanish does. If I was to ask a regular person why that is, they'd probably tell me something along the lines of this. They make a massive amount of high-quality comprehensible input for learners across all levels of Spanish and French. But I actually think the success of Dreaming Spanish comes down to something much more subtle. Something that Pablo might not have consciously realized he was even creating. Something that many of us have experienced, but few of us have actually talked about. Dreaming Spanish is successful because for hundreds of hours, it lets you pretend you have Spanish-speaking friends before you actually do. What is going on, guys? My name is Nick. I'm the creator of Lengualytics and a fluent speaker of the Spanish language. A parasocial connection is when you feel like you know somebody who doesn't know you. Usually the word carries very negative connotations. It sounds like some guy watching a streamer for 8 hours a day and convincing himself they're actually friends. But in online language learning, we have to think of parasocial connection in a completely different way. One of the biggest arguments Dreaming Spanish makes is that adults can acquire a language the same way children do. But there's one massive difference between adults and kids that people just don't talk about enough. A child is not sitting there listening to his parents because he's trying to extract language information to help build his English. He's listening because his entire world is made out of those people. He needs to understand them. He wants attention from them. He wants comfort from them. He wants to be included. He wants to know why his dad is laughing. He wants to know why his mom is mad. He wants to understand his siblings. He wants to understand the jokes that the older kids tell at school. The language is not separate from life. The language is the thing standing between him and the people he cares about. Adults don't have this by default. So as adults, if we truly want to learn like children, we have to construct an environment for ourselves where the language is attached to people that we actually care about understanding. Some of the early attempts at creating comprehensible input online suffered from the problem of being very, very boring. We get someone slowly telling a basic kid story with a bunch of word repetition accompanied by doodles on a whiteboard. At a certain point, a reasonable person looks at that and says, well, why wouldn't I just try to learn these words using flashcards? And that person would have a point. There doesn't seem to be a big difference between learning a word on a visual flashcard and learning a word from someone saying it and spending 2 minutes doodling it on a whiteboard. The difference between study and authentic input is that authentic input is supposed to teach you the language through meaningful situations. But if the situation is so boring that no adult could even be expected to care about it, can we really call that input meaningful? You're technically getting input, you're technically hearing the language in context, but emotionally it still feels like studying, except maybe slower and less efficient. The creator of comprehensible input once said this: "It is possible that blank is not just optimal. It might be the only way we truly acquire language." That space I left, what do you think goes there? It's not comprehensible input. It's compelling input. The creator of comprehensible input himself said it's possible that the comprehensibility of input may not be enough. It might be that compelling input is also a requirement. If we're not interested in what we're watching, then we don't follow the message. And if we don't follow the message, we don't acquire the language. And this is where the parasocial aspect of Dreaming Spanish becomes so important. Because when you watch enough Dreaming Spanish, you're not just watching a bunch of random Spanish videos. You're watching specific people. And as you watch those specific people, you get more interested in their lives. You learn what makes them tick. You learn their desires. You learn their fears. You develop opinions about them. You feel like you understand them deeply as individuals. Maybe you've thought about advice you'd give them. Maybe you've thought about things you'd ask them. You develop this personal relationship with them that you'd never get from watching 90s Spanish educational content about Juan going to the grocery store. Juan isn't real. It doesn't matter if Juan buys cebolla or tomates. So why should you care about what vegetable he picks? But Shell is a real person. She exists in actual life. What she does actually matters. We cannot trick our brains to caring about something that we don't care about. That's like trying to throw yourself a surprise party. And of course, from a critical lens, this might seem odd. It might seem disturbing that we care so much about these people that we've never met before. But from a language learning lens, the importance of this simply can't be overstated. And this parasocial connection gets even stronger when the guides start interacting with each other. Because now you're not just forming a connection with one person, you're being let into a whole social environment. You're watching inside jokes develop. You're watching people teasing each other. You're watching people disagree with each other. other. You're watching people tell stories about each other. And the more that happens, the more Dreaming Spanish stops feeling like a library of videos. And it starts feeling like a little social world. That matters because as humans, we're not just interested in people. We're interested in being a part of a dynamic. We want to know who gets along with who. We want to catch the joke that everybody else seems to understand. In that way, we're exactly like how we were when we were kindergartners trying to understand the jokes of the 5th graders. And then when you leave the video and join the comment section, whether that be on YouTube, on Reddit, or on the Dreaming site itself, you just reinforce that feeling of community more and more. Now you're not just connecting with the guides, you're connecting with all the people who also feel connected to the guides. Other people who have watched the same videos as you, who understand the same jokes, who are taking this exact same journey that you're taking. And at that point, Spanish is no longer this isolated skill you're developing alone in your room. It's the thing that's giving you access to a new world, even though you're doing all your learning online. And that to me is the closest adults can get to learning like children without actual real life immersion. And here's the thing about parasocial connection in language learning. It's like training wheels. It gives you the feeling of having people you care about before you actually have access to the real thing. Then one day you make a real Spanish-speaking friend, you join a real conversation, and you don't need the guides to stand in for that anymore. The training wheels come off on their own. By the time you have your first real conversation, it doesn't feel like you're meeting Spanish speakers for the first time. It feels like you're finally joining a conversation you've been listening to for years. Because the first conversations you have in a new language are already nerve-wracking enough. Walking into it, having no semblance of a connection with any other Spanish speaker makes it 10 times harder. But with Dreaming Spanish, by the time you get there, you've already done that part. And I think I can really stand on my experience here because I dated a girl who spoke no English. And going from an app like Duolingo to Dreaming Spanish was so obvious to me because I was like, oh, well, Dreaming Spanish is really training me on how to interact with her. Whereas with Duolingo, the stuff I was learning there just did not connect at all to what I was experiencing in real life. Dreaming Spanish didn't succeed just because it provided massive amounts of comprehensible input. It succeeded because it provided comprehensible input attached to people you genuinely cared about. The thing that made Dreaming Spanish work was an eclectic ensemble of real people who made Spanish feel like a world you could slowly become a part of. And this is the direction that all comprehensible input creators need to go. We need to build more online communities. We need more parasocial connection. I personally think we should embrace the weirdness. It's key to making people feel like they're a part of the language until they're ready to actually join a true immersive environment. If you want to take a deeper dive into why emotional connection is so important for learning a language, and why the people who try to cram information might not make it that far, I recommend watching this video where I talk about the dangers of making learning a language a problem of simple information transfer. I will see you there.